Hello, everyone, and welcome to Retold, a Harry Potter podcast. My name is Barry, and I am a Harry Potter fan seeking to relive the magic of this incredible story and share the fun that it brings with as many people as possible. In this show, I sit down with a different guest every week, and we do a retelling of the Harry Potter books chapter by chapter. Currently, we are in the Sorcerer's Stone, and with me this week, I'm very lucky to be joined by another amazing friend, Jessie. She is one of the most impressive Harry Potter fans that I know, and impressive is the right word to use. Her knowledge of these books and her love for this franchise are rivaled by very, very few, and I'm so happy that she took the time out of her day to come join us, and I'm even happier that you guys will get to hear her as well. Now, just a few quick housekeeping things before we get started. First and foremost, talking with Jessie was so wonderful and so amazing that we went on for a while. And after spending some time editing this episode, and even after cutting out a lot of our conversation, I thought, this is going to have to be 2 episodes. So what you are about to hear is the first half of our discussion where we cover chapter 5 of the Sorcerer's Stone, Diagon Alley. I know normally we do 2 chapters this week, just chapter 5. Next week, you'll hear chapter 6, the journey from platform 9 3/4. And part of me does hate breaking it up into 2 because I feel like I'm shortchanging listeners. I know when podcasts that I like do 2-hour episodes, I'm like, heck yeah, more content. But I don't know if everybody feels that way. So I guess just write in, let me know your preference. Also, not only was it a long discussion, but it was also a very lively discussion. And I didn't realize this at the time, but listening back to the recording now, we do bump the table a lot and have a lot of fun. So, and you'll hear paper shuffling. Sorry, still haven't learned how to edit that stuff out yet. Eventually I will, but yeah, just be aware that that does go on in this particular episode a little bit more than some of the others. Sorry about that. Anyway, dividing up the episode also changed up our beginning and ending sections a little bit, but I'll explain that during the episode mostly. Just a heads up though, like I did in the past 2 episodes, I sneak in later to fix the Transfiguration section because we changed it from what it was originally. With my first few guests, it was a section where we talked about what we would change from the books. Instead, we have now changed it to a section where I list some of the differences that the movies made from the books in that particular chapter. Also, there is no restricted section in this part 1 of our discussion because it is at the end of part 2, as always. So you'll have to stick around for next week and give me that sweet, sweet listener retention if you want to hear our forbidden spoiler talk. Oh my gosh, Barry, start the show already. I know. I promise I will. Just want to say, I've heard from some people, but if you want to reach out, ask me a question, give me a comment or a howler, whatever, you can send me an email at theretoldpodcast@gmail.com, or you can message me on Instagram at The Retold Podcast. Okay, now, I promise, let's get to the show.
See, I know Hufflepuff.
I don't care how big they are. Can we find all this in London?
If you know where to go.
Not that you need it, eh, Potter?
Wingardium Leviosa. Wicked.
Last word is Caput Draconis.
This is light.
Thought you ought to know.
Hey there, everybody. My name is Barry. Welcome to Retold, the podcast where I retell you my favorite story of all time, Harry Potter. To all of our first-time listeners, welcome. Glad you're here. And everybody else, welcome back. And here with me this week, I have my amazing friend, Jessie. Say hi, Jessie.
Hey, glad to be here and excited to talk about the chapters with you.
Yay. Everybody's at home in your car. Say hi to Jessie. Hi, Jessie. Do you feel a warm welcome from our listeners now?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I wanted you on because of all the people I know, you are the biggest Harry Potter fan. I've had the first Harry Potter fan I ever met. We had Jonathan on, and he said he admitted to you he's probably going to be not the biggest fan, but I think he seemed like a big fan. But you are without a doubt the biggest fan, and not like biggest in size, but like biggest in heart. So just to ask a few questions from the beginning, can you give us your fandom ID? Again, fandom ID is what your house is, your favorite book, and your favorite movie, and your history with the fandom? Like, how did you get into Harry Potter?
Okay. So my house is Ravenclaw.
That's right. You got the shirt on.
Yes. And that is Pottermore verified or whatever the website's called now. And then the fun fact is about that is I have always been a Ravenclaw, and like I've taken the test like 99 times. You know, you create 99 emails and you take it all over and over again. And so I've always gotten Ravenclaw, except for once I got Hufflepuff, but that was because I took the test when I was hungry. And when you answer like all the food questions and then you become a Hufflepuff.
That's so funny. I've never thought about what a cheat code.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So I am a Ravenclaw. And then you said favorite book? Okay, so my favorite book is probably, I like The Half-Blood Prince a lot. I also like Prisoner of Azkaban, but for a favorite book, I'll have to go with Half-Blood Prince. And then favorite movie.
That's 3 in a row. 3 in a row that like all of you have so far said favorite book is Half-Blood Prince.
Really? Yeah. It's a good one. And you get like so much history and flashbacks. So it's very interesting. And then my favorite movie. Now, in the past, I've told you something else, but I was thinking about it the other day. I'm like, I think it's changed.
You can't change.
So,
people are allowed to change.
I know. In the past, I've told you that my favorite movie is probably the 4th one. But now I'm like, I think it's the 1st because it's such a comforting movie. And I think about like, what's the movie I want to watch that makes me the happiest and like is just like a comfort movie. So I watched the 1st and yeah, that's the movie I watched when I was, going into labor and got me through. So
since you became a mama, it's been your favorite.
Yeah. So I think it's changed. I think the 1st movie is now my favorite.
I was about to lose it when you were changing it. Again, one, I'm already upset a little bit because the 4th is my favorite.
Yeah.
But I thought you were going to change it to the 3rd, and that was Emily and Jonathan's favorite as well. Like they both said really? 6th movie or 6th book is their favorite 3rd movie. And I was like, is this we're going 3 for 3? And they're both Gryffindors. So I was like, but I knew we weren't going to have another Gryffindor this time.
I like the 3rd movie, but to me, some of the movies are ruined by my favorite parts in the book not being in the movie. Yeah. And so, for instance, like the 5th book is miserable, but at the same time, I love it because I'm like, this is an angsty 15-year-old boy.
I like how much Hogsmeade you get in the 5th book.
Yeah.
You get a lot of Hogsmeade.
And I hate the 5th movie because they cut out half the book and they have to change everything. And then I've also, like, the reason why the 4th movie has, like, fallen from me is because they cut out like some of the main character, Winky.
Yeah. You said the main character, Winky? Is that your main character?
No, Winky's not the main character.
But I think I showed you that one time.
But she does play such an important part.
They do have a tiny little scene with her in it. Have you seen that?
And then an edited version?
No, in the actual movie.
Really? I think you did show me
yes,
that.
Yes, and I'll say it for the listeners, but like, if you watch the 4th movie, when they're walking through the Quidditch World Cup, a whole bunch of things are whizzing and flying around. There's a moment that if you pause, I think it's like right after you see Hermione and Ginny turn their heads looking at something, you see 2 alpacas or something come across the screen, and Dobby and Winky are supposed to be on those alpacas because I think originally they were supposed to be in the movie and then they took them out. Oh, and how did you get involved? Like, how did you come to be a Harry Potter fan?
So I have been a Harry Potter fan since the books were even done. I started reading them. I was probably in 2nd grade when I found them. And I think the first 4 books were out. I forget like when the books were published, but I found them in like 2nd grade and I read all of them. And then I was up to date, and every time she would release a book, I would go get it. And I was so excited.
Did you go to any midnight releases?
Of the movies or the books?
The books.
No, I was like in elementary school.
Okay, I mean, same. So, I never went to one, but I've heard people talk about it, and I'm like, that's so cool. I would have loved to have done that.
Yeah, I was in elementary school when they were coming out, but it was just so exciting because imagine like reading the 6th book and having to wait a year for the 7th. Like,
that's wild.
I know.
Yeah. What modern media has done to me of like binge watching things, and I hate it. I hate having to wait weekly or monthly or whatever for certain things. I can't do it. I need it my wife and I are trying to find a new anime to watch, and I refuse to watch anime with just one season. Like, I need something with like a back catalog so I can binge.
I'm not even going to see, like, they just came out with Wicked, and I heard it's only part 1. I'm like, well, no reason to see it then. I'll just wait for part 2 to come out.
I've heard really good things about it.
Yeah.
Even from people who, like, I did not think would like that movie at all. So that's kind of cool. All right. Well, we're going to hop into it. Before I explain everything that happens in this episode, I am going to say, I've already told you this, I will be shocked if we finish this in less than 5 hours. Not only are these 2 of the fattest chapters we've got to so far, but also your love and knowledge of Harry Potter being so great. I was like, dang, we might talk forever. But we can't because you got a baby. You got to get the baby. What we're going to do, we're going to do something a little different. Listeners, I've already said this, but Jessie, she knows a lot about Harry Potter. Maybe, it might be possible, just maybe, that she knows more than me. Maybe, I'm not saying she does, just say maybe. And that being the case, we want to do a lot of Quizzitch. I know people love Quizzitch. I love Quizzitch. We're going to break it up to where we do 3 questions at the beginning of this chapter, and then 3 at the beginning of next chapter. So, start it off. Jessie, you first with your Quizzitch sections.
Okay. So I'm going to do a throwback to one of the earlier chapters.
Okay.
And this is one of my favorite lines in the book. Okay. And so if we did one-liners, like this would be it. This is when Harry sees his Aunt Petunia dyeing his quote-unquote new uniform.
Yes.
What does Harry think that he makes a metaphor or simile? And he's like, oh, that looks like, and what does he liken his new uniform to?
Elephant skin.
Yes, old elephant skins. And I don't know why, I just love that line. I thought that was so funny.
I like when he says, I didn't know they were supposed to be so wet. And again, for keeping track at home, this is like meant to be a challenge between me and my guest hosts. And right now, currently, before that one, the score was I had 4 correct, guests had 3 correct.
Okay.
So anyway, all right, your question.
Okay.
What is the number of the vault Hagrid asked to be taken to?
713.
That's correct. Bing, 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 bing. Good job. The vault in question, number 713, had in fact been emptied earlier that very same day. Your turn.
All right. Let's see. Okay. This is the one I feel like you were thinking, like, oh no, she's going to ask me this.
Oh, frick.
How many sickles to a galleon? And that's 2 sickles.
That's exactly what I thought you were going to ask. Literally, I looked it up, and I looked at the numbers, and I was like, I'm not going to be able to remember these numbers.
They're so random. It's so random.
16 sickles? 17 sickles to a galleon.
Mm-hmm.
And then 17 sickles to a galleon, and then I owe 24 to a Knut.
29.
I was like, I'll remember the 17. I'm not going to remember this other one.
Yeah, I know, it's so random. I wrote that down for me to be like, let me remember this in case he asks me.
Yeah, I was like, I knew that was happening. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, my first one wrong. No, I had a perfect score. Okay, so your question. What does Hagrid stop Harry from buying in Diagon Alley? Harry wants to buy something really bad, and Hagrid stops him from buying it. You don't know. You don't know.
No, I'm like thinking. Going through, I'm like, what was Harry? It's not a toad.
No.
Crap. I don't remember.
You don't know. It's the solid gold cauldron.
Oh, no. I do. Okay. I didn't realize. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, he wanted to buy it, and Hagrid's like, no, you're not doing that. We'll talk about it.
He's like, oh, your list says pewter.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Okay, so one more.
All right. I wanted to ask you a funny one, but I feel like that's going to be too easy.
We're not even going for forget what making listeners laugh. We want to win.
Well, wait. So we're doing one more. I don't know.
One more here, and then 3 more at the beginning of next chapter.
I know you're definitely going to know this one because it's funny and it's about Hufflepuff. So.
Got a bunch of duff.
Yes. All right. What wandwood was James Potter's?
Oh, mahogany.
Yes.
Heck yeah.
Do you know lilies?
Birch.
No.
I'm literally just saying trees.
No. No. Lily is willow.
Oh, that makes sense, I guess. You know what wandwood Voldemort's was?
Yeah, elder. No, wait.
That can be your question.
No.
That wasn't your question.
No,
so don't
you.
worry.
It's you.
But your actual question, you asked me a numbers one, I'll ask you a numbers one. And I'm sure you'll know this. What is the tapping pattern on the bricks to get into Diagon Alley?
It's you just tap twice on the left brick. You like find it over, and then in the movie there's a tapping pattern, but in the book it just says that he finds the right one.
Which bricks they are.
Oh my goodness. It's like, but you don't tap on them. It's like one left and then two right and down or
You're
whatever.
so close.
But you tap twice.
It's I'll give you a hint. It's a certain number up and a certain number across. Blank up, blank across.
I know, it's like...
Did you not go on the special features of the DVD and go into Diagon Alley?
But in the movie, it's different than the books.
In the movie, so I don't know if it is. What I would say the difference would be is that he taps each brick.
Yeah.
And maybe he does that here.
In
but
the
he definitely
books, it doesn't
taps.
say.
He taps at least the finish point.
Yes. Okay. I don't know. I'll say 2 up and 3 right.
So close. 3 up and 2 across.
3 up and 2 across.
But you know what? You did get the elm right, so I'll give you that one.
No, it's you.
You. So you got that right. So we'll do 2 to 2 on this one. Reparo. Hello, everyone. Interrupting this Quizzitch section because I remember that in the very first episode, I asked the audience a Quizzitch question as well. I did not do that in episode 2. My apologies. I am now here to right my wrongs, and now I have your Quizzitch question for this week. So here it is. How often do the Gringotts goblins check to see if someone is stuck inside of a vault? That's your question for this week. How often do the Gringotts goblins check to see if someone is stuck inside of a vault? That's your question. If you know what it is, write into theretoldpodcast@gmail.com to share your answer, or just brag about it to the people you know in your life. Anyway, back to the show. All right. Our first chapter for the day, chapter 5, Diagon Alley. Do you have any opening thoughts on this chapter?
I specifically chose this chapter because I think this is one of the most magical chapters. Imagine being a kid that doesn't have any happy things in his life, and all of a sudden he's taken to a whole new magical world, and just to see the way his eyes are open. And so one of the reasons why the first movie has become my favorite is just that you can't recapture the magical moment of first going into Diagon Alley and first going to Hogwarts and the magical world. And so that's what this chapter is. It's just a magical wonderland.
Yes, those incredible first times. And I like the way you phrased that much better than the way I thought too, because I said, it's the most magical chapter by far. And I was like, well, of course it is. First time we were but yeah, I liked how you phrased it. Obviously, there's a lot of good lines in this. We talked about that before we started recording. It made me think of, if you've ever been to Harry Potter World at Universal, as we have, that feeling of walking in there. Yes. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm in the first movie. And so I love this chapter too. So let's get to it. And again, I keep losing my segments, but what we'll do every episode, like before and then after this, I'll retell this chapter. And then afterwards, we'll talk about our favorite lines. We'll have a Transfiguration section, anything we would have changed about the book, or this chapter specifically. Our Golden Snitch section with cool little Easter eggs and lore tidbits. And then at the very end of the podcast, we'll do a restricted section. We want to try to keep it somewhat spoiler-free and keep the same vibe as when we first read the book. So anyway, retelling this chapter. Diagon Alley, Chapter 5. So Harry wakes up and thinks that he just dreamed the whole thing, which makes me sad, but also very excited for Harry. He doesn't even think he'll have the bigger room. I noticed that too. He thinks the dream started before that.
Again, yeah.
He hears a tapping at the window. Doesn't want to get up at first, but the tapping keeps going on and on. He finally gets up. And when he gets up, Hagrid's coat falls off of him, and it's like, oh, it wasn't a dream. The storm is over. I'm sure there's some cool literary significance to that.
Symbolism.
They did a
Full
symbolism.
Of sunlight. Yeah.
They did a symbolism. Oh, and Hagrid's broken the sofa. Looks over and sees Hagrid's broken it. The noise is some owl with a newspaper at the window. Harry is super happy, opens up the window, and the owl drops the newspaper right on top of Haggy, and then begins to attack Hagrid's coat. Hagrid's like, no, that's my Lord and Savior Hagrid's coat. Don't attack that coat. But Hagrid says, no, it's okay. He just wants to be paid. He tells Harry to check the pockets. And I love this line. Hagrid's coats seem to be made of nothing but pockets. That made me think of, what are those? I couldn't not think of the name of them, but what are the shorts that middle school boys wear?
Cargo shorts.
Cargo shorts. Yes. It's just one giant cargo short.
Okay. And also I was like thinking about this, but what does the owl do with the money he's paid?
Harry puts it in the pouch.
No. But like, think about it. Is this owl going and spending his pocket change, or does he like bring it back to someone?
I think he takes it back to the publishing offices of the Daily Prophet, hopefully.
Okay.
That would
So
be my thought, but I would love
the owl post service gets paid. So
yes.
Because I'm like thinking like, okay, here's this owl. Like, I gotta get my pocket change to spend later.
I would, like he worked.
Yeah,
he's the one who did the work.
The owl's not getting paid. I don't know.
Oh my goodness, we've seen a flaw. Plot hole. We need a fan. There's probably a fanfic about this. The owl going, and we can find something. So Harry's told him to pay 5 knuts, the little bronze ones. The little bronze ones, obviously, Jessie. He didn't even know what that was, what a knut was. The owl flies off. Hagrid says it's time to buy school supplies. And I hate this part. Harry says he just thought of something that made him feel as though the happy balloon inside him had got a puncture. He's all sad. He's like, Hagrid, I'm broke. Hagrid says, don't worry about that. Your parents were freaking rich. And Harry's like, but I thought you said the house was destroyed. And Hagrid's like, bro, they're not weirdos. They don't keep the money just at home. It's not hidden under the mattress.
Yeah.
It's at the bank.
And then again, I wonder, like, what did Lily and James Potter do that they had all of this gold just
We'll talk
stored
about
away?
that in the Golden Snitch section. And apparently, sausage is good cold, just like pizza. Hagrid's like, have some.
I beg to differ.
Hagrid also says the bank is run by goblins, and Harry gets a little racist, freaks out about that. Hagrid's like, bro, chill. Just don't mess with them and they won't mess with you. They're like snakes. Hagrid's got to go, and got to go there anyway because Dumbledore is sending him on a secret mission. So I love this moment where Hagrid says he draws himself up and he's all proud, like, Dumbledore sends me on secret missions, like going to get you, going to the bank for him. And in my head, I, of course, know that they have a great friendly relationship. But it also gave me Tom Sawyer vibes of like Hagrid being a simpleton.
Yeah.
We love him, but he's kind of simple-minded, and it's like if Dumbledore was not a good person, you could easily see it as, oh yeah, Hagrid, you're my buddy. Hey, can you go do this for me?
It's so funny though, because I mean, no spoiler, but Hermione, like, she prays on that about Hagrid. So anyway,
so they leave. Harry doesn't bother saying goodbye to the Dursleys at all. Apparently Hagrid can fly. Because he goes, how did you get here? Hagrid says, I flew.
I know, and I'm like, Hagrid on a broomstick? What broomstick is big enough for him?
Well, he definitely can't ride a broomstick. We know this. It says he's too big for brooms in a later
So
book.
did he take the motorcycle?
That's what I thought, but the motorcycle's not out there.
Right.
You would have thought he would have just got. So I don't.
So how do you fly?
Hagrid's like.
He's like.
So apparently Hagrid just flies, but and I love this moment. He said, "We're going to take the boat, though." And Hagrid's like, it would be such a shame to row. You wouldn't mind if I just use some magic to speed things up. And Harry gives him the okay because he just wants to see some more magic. Harry proceeds to do the kid thing of asking a whole lot of questions, like on a road trip. He's like, "Why shouldn't you rob a bank?" Hagrid's like, "Because there's dragons in there." He goes, "There's a ministry of magic?" Yep. And the minister stinks. What does the ministry do? Hide wizards. Why? Because we want to keep all the magic to ourselves. That's basically the reason he gives Hagrid. He says,
everyone be wanting magic solutions to their problems.
That's right. And then so they keep chugging along. They get to shore, and Hagrid is fascinated by Muggle technology. But I like this moment here. Harry says, wait a minute, did you say dragons? Like, he kind of forgot about it for a minute, and then he brings it back up. He's like, wait, what about dragons? And Hagrid says, yep, I'd love one myself. Anyway, let's go. And he asks Harry to pay for the train because he doesn't understand Muggle money. That's fine. We don't understand wizard money. Hagrid takes up 2 seats on the train. People stare at him, but he is unbothered by this, and he just knits away. What does it say? He knits like a big old yellow...
it looks like a canary yellow circus tent.
That's right.
Okay, but Hagrid on the subway. Like,
Yes.
that would be so interesting. And then when I was listening to your retelling of the first chapter, and it talks about Albus Dumbledore having a convenient scar of the London Underground, that implies that Albus Dumbledore is familiar with the London subway system.
Yeah.
And can you imagine this, like, old wizard just riding the subways?
Yeah.
Like,
walking up high-heeled buckled boots.
yeah, his buckled boots.
I need to go
on
to
the
Surrey.
subway. Like, imagine you being a London commuter and just seeing this man on the subway. Like,
You know, there's a deleted scene from the first movie of Hagrid on the
yes,
subway.
I've seen that,
I
and
love
everyone's
that.
like,
Yeah, the old lady's like looking at him all kind of funky. So he's knitting away. He asks Harry to check his school supplies list. Apparently Harry missed that part. He goes, "There's a list?" And he opens it up. Another thing, again, we get the list of everything he needs. Just I'm not going to read everything, but some of my initial thoughts are, especially like on the uniform, that's not a lot of clothes. It's very little clothes. It just says like 3 sets of plain work robes, 1 hat, 1 pair of gloves, 1 winter coat. And I was like, I overpack when I go on a week-long trip. He's going to be on for 10 months. That's not enough clothes.
yeah, I guess it's like he wears other clothes under it, so it's not like those clothes are getting really dirty. But one thing I'm glad about in the movies that they don't show is the plain pointed hat, black for day wear. Is they don't do like in the movies, they don't always wear those silly pointed hats, and I just feel like that would have been so funny.
It seems like just a ceremonial thing, like
Yeah.
certain feasts and stuff. I thought you were about to say that you were glad they didn't do the name tags, because it says, "Please note that all pupils should carry name tags."
I'm sure
That was,
that's
like, people's
inside
clothes.
and not
I was
like on the outside.
Just walking around. "Hi, my name is Harry." Just on the name tag. And then for the course books, there's lots of puns. Did you catch all these puns? Let's see. We got The Beginner's Guide to Transfiguration by Emmerich Switch. Switch. Transfiguring, switching. 1,000 Herbs and Fungi by a lady named Miss Spore. Spore. Magical Droughts and Potions by Arsonist Jigger. And arsonist sounds like arsenic. Okay. Okay. We got Newt Scamander with the Fantastic Beast, a newt being an animal, or at least, is it a real animal or a?
Yeah, it's a lizard.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, that's definitely a magical ant, but and then The Dark Forces, a guide to self-protection by somebody named Trimble, and it's scary. So then I just thought those were funny. Other equipment, they can have an animal. Jesse, what animal would you want to have? It says an owl, a cat, or a toad.
I'd have an owl.
You would have an owl?
Yeah.
No question about it?
No question.
I thought there might have been a chance for a cat.
Oh no, I'm not really a cat person.
Okay.
I mean, if it's Ileana's cat, then maybe. But
She'd like to hear that. You know, one time we were streaming and the cat turned off the stream,
oh, that's
like
so
on her
funny.
computer, like it just walked over the keyboard or something. It just shut everything down. And I was like, where's my co-host?
Yeah, I would like. Though I must say, Hermione's intelligent cat is not bad. I love frogs, though. A toad would be tempting, but I just think an owl's so much more useful.
What are those Kneasels?
Oh
Those
yes,
smart
they're very
kitties are
cool.
called.
Yeah, and Hermione's is half Kneasel. Yeah, they're pretty cool. But I'm much more of a dog person. But I think an owl would be the most.
That's
practical.
right. You got a great doggy.
Yes.
For those who don't know, Jesse's dog is the son of my parents' dog. And I also now have one of his brothers. It's a great family. Good community. Anyway, I like this part here. The note that says parents are reminded that first years are not allowed their own broomsticks. It's in all caps. So Harry asks if they can buy all that in London. And Hagrid says, if you know where to go. Basically, if you know, you know. Unfortunately, Harry doesn't know. But he's never been to London. Lucky for him, he just has to follow Hagrid. And when they get off the train, they go out onto the road and people just part ways with the big guy. We get a call back to hamburger restaurants. I don't know if you remember in chapter 2, Harry's like, man, I'd love to go to a hamburger restaurant. And here he sees a hamburger restaurant. But apparently the rest of London isn't that special. Like Harry dumps on it. He says the whole place is very ordinary and super not magical. There's a sad moment where he thinks that maybe the Dursleys were playing a trick on him, but then he remembers they have no sense of humor, so this can't be a big trick. And then they get to it. the Leaky Cauldron. That's in London. Hagrid even calls it a famous place, but apparently Harry's hard to impress because he doesn't think much of it. He does notice, though, Muggles can't see it. So it is confirmed we are not Muggles, Jessie. Because we've seen the Leaky Cauldron. We've eaten there. We've been there. So
I will say, though, my least favorite thing about the Leaky Cauldron is that it serves British food.
Oh my god! What do you want when you go in there?
Good food.
Oh my goodness! You don't like bangers and mash?
No. I love the pumpkin juice and the butterbeer, but
butterbeer for sure.
Otherwise, I'm like,
I like the fish and chips.
Yeah,
which is just fries, but I don't know why that translation thing happened.
Yeah.
Listeners, write it. Send all your hate to Jessie. Jessie at Jessie.com. I wonder if that's actually a thing.
I'm sure it is. Someone's gotten that domain.
So they walk in. Place is a little shabby. The bartender looks like a toothless walnut. I don't even know what that means.
Because walnuts have teeth otherwise.
That's right. No idea. Everybody knows Hagrid. The barkeeper even asks if Hagrid wants the usual. And it's at this point we get the first hint that Hagrid, just maybe, has a drinking problem. Everybody, Hagrid! Do you want the usual?
And his drinking problem comes in later, too.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in the descriptive section. Hagrid says that he can't because he has a minor with him. And everyone realizes who Harry is right away, and they are starstruck. And after a moment's silence, everybody wants to shake his hand. I want to shake your hand. Have you seen that meme?
No.
Yeah, me neither. So we get our Daedalus Diggle mention number 3. Harry's like, I know you. And he goes, he remembers me. Doris... What is it? Doris what?
Doris Crockford. I just like imagine this old witch and there's a line to shake Harry's hand. She just keeps getting in the back of the line for another handshake.
She keeps going around trying to meet him, and we meet poor stuttering Professor Quirrell. He is a short, pale man who's going to teach Harry defense against the dark arts. But no, not that you need it, Potter. Anyway, after one last Doris handshake, they get out of there and through the back door. Hagrid's like, told you were famous. And Harry asks what's wrong with Quirrell, and Hagrid says he's more of a coach than a player when it comes to dark arts.
Oh, another one of my potential quiz questions for you was going to be what Quirrell's story was for his turban.
Oh yeah, the story was it was given to him by some Middle Eastern wizards. That's what he said.
No.
What does he say?
African prince for defending him from a zombie.
Oh, I would have gotten that wrong. You could have saved it.
Yeah.
So Harry asks what's wrong. He says, more of a coach than a player. Oh, where's my umbrella? I love that. So it happens a lot. I'm really noticing it now that people just saying random things and then changing the subject. Because, they were talking about Professor Quirrell, which might be a little significant. And he just goes, anyway, where's my umbrella? They're in front of a brick wall, and Hagrid taps on it, 3 up, 2 across, and then bam, it opens up into Diagon Alley. And again, makes me think of walking into Universal every time. I love the setup they have there. Of like how the bricks are. It's hard to describe, but it's wonderful. They walk through this amazing place called Diagon Alley. Jessie, how would you describe it?
I just imagine. I mean, once you go to Universal, you're like, this is
I know this
Diagonally. Which is funny because you think about in the second book, Harry says Diagon Alley wrong, and you're like, how many times have they said it already, Harry, that you're making that mispronunciation? But I don't know, just this magical, he's talking about how boring London is, and now he's going to a place that it's got cauldrons all sizes, broomstick stores, Ilops Owl Emporium, and just going from him being oh, London's kind of boring, to this crazy cool street with all these magical items.
It's beautiful.
Yes, amazing.
So they see cauldron shops, potions, racing brooms, magical animals. I listened to this podcast called Streaming Things. And when they were reviewing the first movie, that's what they do on their podcast, they review TV shows and movies. And they do kind of a similar thing to this, where they scene by scene go through it. And when they're looking at the scene where all the kids are looking at the broom, one of them does a little voiceover, and he's like, "Oh, look, it's the broom that the main character is going to get later." I was Harry Potter.
That's so funny.
Spoiler. But anyway, they get to Gringotts, the Wizard Bank. Harry sees his first goblin guarding the door. They are short, bearded, and got long fingies and feet. There's a nice little poem on the door that basically says, don't freaking rob us. We got dragons. They are escorted in. There's hundreds of goblins hard at work. Again, really cool if you go to Universal. This is not a Universal podcast, by the way. Hard at work in there. And Harry asks one if they can go to Harry's vault. The goblin asks for Harry's key. Key, please. Hagrid dumps dog biscuits on his stuff. That was one of my potential questions for you is what does Hagrid dump on the goblin's desk? And it's just he's emptying out his pockets and it's just moldy dog biscuits. He finds the key and then is super sus about it. He's like, hey, can you take me to vault you know what? Or vault 713 for the you know what? We get to meet Griphook. Yay! A goblin named Griphook. Keep an eye on that boy, that goblin. Before they go, Hagrid's like, wait, can't forget about the dog biscuits. He puts them all back in his pockets. I gotta use these left. Hang on one. Harry says, or asks about the you-know-what. Hagrid says, for once, none ya. They go down a hall at the bank that basically leads to an indoor roller coaster.
That we may or may not have written at Universal.
They zoom off. Harry sees fire. He also sees an underground lake. That's dope. And there is an awesome lesson from Hagrid. This part. Harry says, I never know what's the difference between a stalactite and a stalagmite.
Oh, yes.
And he's like, stalagmite's got an M in it.
You didn't know Hagrid was a science teacher, did you?
That's right. And don't ask me any questions. I think I'm going to be sick. So Hagrid's a little sicky. And they get to Harry's vault, and Griphook opens it. And what's inside? A fat fortune. He thinks, thank goodness the Dursleys don't know about this. They'd have stolen it. Hagrid explains how the money works. We won't worry about it. I should have worried about it, so I would have known the question earlier. 29 knuts to a sickle with the hat. On the way back, Hagrid, I like this moment. Hagrid asks if they can go slower on the way to the you-know-what, and Griphook, like a boss, says, only one way to fly. Puts down the sunglasses, fireworks go. He really says, one speed only. But I like that moment. They get to the vault, and interestingly enough, it doesn't use a key, but a goblin's magical touch. Griphook explains only goblins can do that, and if anyone else does, they get sucked in and trapped.
Which, to not talk about something at Universal, but you've played Hogwarts Legacy, and like the opening scene where they go through the Gringotts ride and the goblin opens that one vault is so cool. I'm like,
yeah. I'm doing hand motion. People can't see it.
I know. We're like acting it out.
But don't worry, Griphook says they check once every 10 years to see if people are stuck in there, and Harry doesn't like Griphook's smile when he says that. Anyway, Harry's expecting something awesome in there, but it's just a little package. And Hagrid takes it and says, let's bounce. And they get outside, and the money is burning a hole in Harry's pocket. That's an American idiom, everybody. I don't know if you've heard that. Basically, he just wants to spend all his money. And Hagrid tells him to go get his uniform while he goes day drinking. Sign number 2 that maybe Hagrid has a problem. So Harry goes to Madame Malkin's, the clothes store. Miss Malkin takes him in, and has him getting fitted next to another Hogwarts boy, some blonde boy.
A pale, pointed face.
That's right. They say hey to each other, and the blonde boy doesn't know how to have a conversation because he just keeps asking yes or no questions to Harry. He's like, Hogwarts 2? Yeah. Have you got your own broom? No. You play Quidditch at all? No. I do. You know what house you'll be in?
I think it's funny because Harry's just like, thank goodness he's only asking me yes or no questions because Harry doesn't know anything.
And maybe Harry's the bad at the conversations then.
Yeah. And I do think, gosh, if I met a kid like this and he talked to me like this, I do. Father says it's a crime if I'm not picked to play for my house. And I must say, I agree. I'd be like, shut up, kid. You're so annoying.
Yeah, he said, I think I'll bully Father. He's going to bully his dad?
I'd be like, yeah, I'm not being friends with you.
Yeah. Malfoy takes a shot at Hufflepuffs. Thank you for that. He said he'd think he'd leave if he was in Hufflepuff. and who saves Harry from this awful conversation? It's Hagrid, standing outside the window with 2 ice cream cones, so he didn't go drinking. He went and got Harry ice cream. Yeah. So the blonde boy tries to insult Hagrid, but Harry sticks up for him, says, I think he's brilliant. Although the blonde boy does point out that he hears Hagrid gets drunk a lot, so maybe that part was right.
Yeah.
Anyway, blonde boy asks if he's with Hagrid, then where are his parents? And Harry says, just bluntly, they're dead. And whoops, bad move, Blondie. Blondie asks a racist question. followed up by a racist comment. Like, are you pure blood, basically? I don't think they should let any of the other kind in here. And finally, Harry gets to leave before he answers any more of his questions. Harry ends up telling Hagrid about this conversation and admits he feels like he doesn't know anything. Oh, I do like how Hagrid does notice that something's wrong with Harry. He's like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
Hagrid says, forget him, Harry, and they talk about Quidditch some. Well, Hagrid just tells him it's a wizard sport, because when he tries to explain, he's like, it's kind of hard to explain.
Yeah, Hagrid's not big on details like that.
No. And then Harry asks about the houses. Hagrid says there are 4, and Hagrid also takes a shot at Hufflepuff.
Everyone says Hufflepuff are a lot of duffers.
That's right. Harry says he thinks he'll be in Hufflepuff, and Hagrid says, well, it's better than being evil. I mean, a Slytherin. We learn who was a Slytherin, and they get Harry's book. There's a crazy book title in there. Oh, yeah, because Harry was wanting to buy this book, and it says Hagrid almost had to drag Harry away from curses and counter curses, bewitch your friends and befuddle your enemies with the latest revenges, hair loss, jelly legs, tongue tying, and much, much more, which is a long, long name, but also the professor's name who made the book, Vindictus Viridian. She can't make a book title without a pun.
Yeah, she's also big on alliteration names, too.
Yes. Rowena Ravenclaw. Where am I in my notes? Yes, and then this is where Hagrid has to stop Harry from blowing all his money on a gold cauldron. But Dad, I want to flex on the other kids. No,
like,
Harry.
I've never had spending money. Let me just buy gold.
That's right. It says pewter on your list. And then they go get Harry's potion ingredients. And before they get Harry's wand, we get the cutest moment of the whole book, I think, maybe, potentially, where, he's like, I want to buy you a gift. Where does it start? He says, just your wand left. I still haven't gotten you a birthday present. And Harry went, red, you don't have to. He says, I know I don't have to. Tell you what, I'll get you an animal. Not a toad. Toads went out of fashion years ago. I don't like cats, but I'll get you an owl. But I don't know, it's just a really cute moment.
Yeah, and to think that, that's the first nice birthday gift Harry's ever had in his life. Of course, he doesn't remember his first birthday, what we know he got for his birthday, but that's just so sweet.
Good call out. Forgot about that. So Hagrid buys Harry his owl, and then they go off to get his wand. They go into the wand shop, an old dusty place called Ollivander's, open since 382 BC.
I know, that was another potential quiz question. I'm like, I'm not even going to be able to remember that. And then, you think, man, your family was keeping this alive for thousands of years? That's crazy.
I'm surprised, the name Ollivander's just stayed around forever. Because, names change.
But his name is Garrick Ollivander, isn't it? Yeah, so...
Ollie. It's small, but has wands piled up to the ceiling. Again, perfect view in the movie. I think the movie shows the shop really well, and also Universal. I'm so sad because our season pass has basically just ended, so it's going to be a minute before I get to go back. Anyway, an old man says good morning and scares the bejesus out of them. Hagrid breaks the chair and went jumping out of it. Mr. Ollivander may have the best memory of all time because he remembers every wand he ever sold. And he remembers both the wands he gave to Harry's mom and dad. Interestingly enough, though, he remembers Harry because he remembers Harry's mother's eyes. And everybody always points this out. We'll see this later. So I'm just like, what kind of special eyes did Lily have?
They said bright green. And I think, and you saw I put my little post of my baby, and I'm like, he looks like his dad, but he has his mother's eyes. My baby has my eyes. So.
Well, we were just talking about it. Your baby had 2 different color eyes.
Yes,
that's
I know.
Sick.
And so, we know that the new Harry Potter series is coming up, and I was really hopeful because my baby has dark hair and it sticks up all over the place, and then I have green eyes, and I was like, he could play baby Harry.
And you could be Lily.
And I could be Lily. But that's now perfect. My baby has 2 different colored eyes.
He's going to need 2 different sets of contacts.
I'm like, oh no, he has the wrong eyes. But no, I'm just kidding. But,
put him under the cupboard. You could never be Harry. So anyway, Lily had amazing eyes. We hear the famous phrase, the wand chooses the wizard. Ollivander notices Harry's scar and apologizes for selling the wand that gave him that scar and wishes that he hadn't. At this point, Ollie notices Hagrid, and the first thing that he remembers about Hagrid was his wand. And it was cool to me because whenever he's like, oh, Hagrid, and it was a cool trick that he remembers all these wands, but now I'm like, it's kind of weird, man. It's very robotic.
He like identifies people by their wand. It's funny because he almost sees wands as more human than the actual humans.
Like what he says, where here is it? Rubius, Hagrid, how nice to see you again. Oh, 16 inches, rather bendy, wasn't it? A nerd.
And then, like, we know from Pottermore, too, that the wand wood and the length and the, pliability reflects their character as well, so.
Yeah, and Hagrid had a huge wand. He's got a huge character, big old heart. Rather bendy, though, because, maybe not super.
Maybe a little manipulated at times.
Yeah. So he notices Hagrid. They talk some about Hagrid's wand. Apparently it was snapped when he was expelled, and Hagrid swears he doesn't use the pieces anymore, but he still has them, and he grips his umbrella tighter. I'm going to hold on to that. We're going to talk about that in the restricted section.
Okay. All right. I will refrain from my comments.
There you go. Ollie turns his attention back to Harry, and he measures him, all this stuff, explains wand lore to him and what wands are made of. Jessie, do you remember what your wand is made of?
Yes.
Or what it was?
Yes. I have a hornbeam wand, 11.5 inches, and a phoenix core. Mm-hmm. And then I think it's like rather pliable. It's kind of in the middle. It's neither super rigid or really swishy. So
that's impressive that you remember all. Did you look it up before you came, or did you
No.
That's sick. Okay. This future Barry will come in and say what his wand is.
Oh, you don't know?
No, I don't know.
Come on, Barry.
I took a test, but I don't know.
No, I'm like, I don't know. I loved the Pottermore quizzes so much. And so, like I told you earlier, I'm like, I'd take it over and over again. And eventually, like, I do have somewhat of a consensus. So I'm like, it is pretty. The only thing that changes based on my mood is the Patronus. So
what's your Patronus?
So sometimes it's like a bird of prey. It's like the Marsh Harrier. And then I have gotten wolf before, which I'm like, a wolf is my favorite animal. So
I don't know my Patronus either. I don't
really.
So future Barry might come in.
I am surprised. You're a lot of duffers, aren't you?
I'm a duffer. That's all I know is what house I belong. Point me home. That's all I can do. Just lead you there. And then Harry tries a few wands that Ollivander gives him, and none of them work. 1 wand, 2 wand, 3 wands, on and on. They keep piling up to the ceiling, and none of them seem to work. But Ollivander doesn't care. He's actually kind of hype about it. He's like, tricky customer, and he's super excited. He views it as a challenge.
This is another one that's interesting about the difference in the book versus the movie, because in the movie they keep having the other wands do like crazy things, like he makes explosions as things fly off, but in this it's just like nothing works until he gets his wand.
So I was, full disclosure, when I was taking notes on this chapter, I was up really late that night and I wanted to go to bed. I'm taking notes on the chapter and I get to this section. I was like, I'm going to have to write down what each wand does. And I get to it, I'm like, oh, they don't do anything.
Yeah. it just doesn't work.
Finally, Ollivander gives him what he calls an unusual combo, holly and phoenix feather. Now, this was interesting to me because I think I made a note of this later, but I'll say it now. I always thought that, because Ollivander, explains that the phoenix that gives this wand its feather gave just one other feather. And I always thought that there were only 2 phoenix feather wands. But that's not what he means. He just means it's just from that particular phoenix.
Yeah, the same bird.
Yeah. So I was a mistake. Because the first one he's given is a phoenix feather wand.
Which is this confirmed that it's Dumbledore's phoenix?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So he gives him that wand, and it works. Where did I put that? Ollivander is... Okay, he waves it, and bam, shoots red and gold sparks. Apparently that's the right sign. Ollivander is even more hype, but he keeps saying under his breath, curious, 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 curious. And Harry's like, bro, what do you mean? Ollivander says that it's the same phoenix as Voldy's wand, the one that Voldemort has. Ollivander says maybe Harry will do even more epic stuff like Voldy. And Harry thinks maybe I don't like this guy that much. So real quick, it seems they leave Diagon Alley just like that, and it's getting late, The leaky cauldron is empty. I did have a thought. Why is a bar way less crowded in the evening than in the morning?
Yeah, that's interesting.
They make their way home, but before they do, Harry finally gets that coveted hamburger he wants because they stop and they have hamburgers.
And Hagrid buys him a hamburger.
I know. He's like, let me get you some dinner before we go. And I was just happy Harry finally got his hamburger. So maybe British people want our food.
Yes.
You were onto something. Harry feels weird. Hagrid asks him about it, and Harry basically explains he feels like an imposter. And Hagrid cheers him up and encourages him. So freaking good. I love this. He says, "Don't you worry. You'll learn fast enough. Everyone starts at the beginning. You'll be just fine." And then Hagrid puts an 11-year-old on a train by himself.
Which would be completely normal if it were Japan.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, 5-year-olds ride the train by themselves.
That's
in Japan.
crazy. I'm imagining somebody getting on the MARTA here.
No, it's not the same. It's not the same because it's like, oh, we live in a very high crime area, and other places in the world, imagine this, are not like that. So.
Yay! America! Truck, yeah! Anyway, he tells Harry when to leave for Hogwarts, September 1st, and Harry watches Hagrid as he leaves, and poof, Hagrid disappears. Hagrid apparating, apparently. Anyway, that's the end of that chapter. So we will do now our favorite lines. Jessie, what are some of your favorite lines?
One of my favorites, Crockford going back for more.
Let me shake your hand.
Third handshake, and she just can't get enough. And they're like, okay, enough. We gotta go. And then
I like the stalactite.
Yes, that's a funny one. And I do love the Hufflepuffs. A lot of duffers. Jeez. I just think that's so funny.
Put that on my tombstone.
And was Hagrid a Gryffindor? Is that?
That's right.
Okay, because I feel like if he wasn't a Gryffindor, he would be a Hufflepuff.
Yeah. Let's see. One of my favorite lines. I have two from Ollivander. I'm so sorry to say I sold the wand that did it, he said softly. 13.5 inches. You, powerful wand, very powerful, and in the wrong hands. Well, if I'd known what the wand was going out in the world to do. That's just a very ominous, very cool sounding line. Yeah,
but even it's like Mr. Ollivander is so interesting because he's like, that wand did great things.
Yes, okay.
Terrible.
So before you expound on that, I want to, because that's my other favorite line, where he says, I think we must expect great things from you, Mr. Potter. After all, he who must not be named did great things. Terrible, yes, but great. And I love that line. And it's, I've said before, I listen to a lot of Harry Potter podcasts. People talk about this line, and they're like, Ollivander's kind of a freak. And I don't view it that way. I view it, like you were saying, he's very attached to the wand. And in his head, he's not necessarily saying Voldemort's a good guy. He's just like, that wand did some terrible, but things of epic proportion.
Well, I think, too, that the definition of great can't be what we think it is.
Yeah, it's not that. It's like the original word for original meaning of awesome. It strikes awe.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So like a terrible tragedy that kills a lot of people could be, in like the older definition, awesome. Not that it's like a good thing, but it strikes awe. Or that's where awful. Anyway. So yeah, I like that line a lot. I think it's pretty cool. And then I had two on the last page. He brought Harry a hamburger, and they sat down on plastic seats to eat them. Harry kept looking around. Everything looked so strange somehow. Because now he's had a taste of magic, and he knows what the world he belongs to is like.
Yeah.
And then my other favorite line was the one I was reading at the end of, when Hagrid says, you'll learn fast enough. Everyone starts at the beginning at Hogwarts. You'll be just fine. Just be yourself. I know it's hard. You've been singled out. And that's always hard. But you'll have a great time at Hogwarts. I do. Still do, matter of fact. I love the comfort there. I love, the awesome advice. Just be yourself. It's hard to be singled out. That's always hard. But you'll have a great time. And I also related because I was like 27 years old. I still have a great time at Hogwarts. So that's our favorite line section. Did you have any more?
No.
Very cool.
I just love it all.
That's right.
Yeah, I can read it back to you, and that's my favorite line.
Reparo. As promised, here I am again fixing our Transfiguration section because, again, we changed it. But don't worry, these episodes with Jessie are the last times I'll have to do this because after this, my guests and I finally did it the new way. The old way was, as we've always said, what we would have changed from the books. The new way is, what did the movies change from the books in this chapter? So let's get to it. What are the things that good old Christopher Columbus and those at the Harry Potter movie production changed from chapter 5, what's it called? Diagon Alley. So here they are. First, one change is the location where Hagrid tells Harry about the death of his parents. In the books, he does this back on the island, but in the movie, he tells him at the Leaky Cauldron. Another really big change is that in the movie, when Harry first meets Professor Quirrell in the Leaky Cauldron, he is wearing his turban. In the books, though, Professor Quirrell doesn't have the turban on until Harry gets to school. I wonder why that could be. Don't worry. I'll talk about that in a later episode. That's called a hook. Nice job, Barry. He also doesn't shake Harry's hand in the movie, but he does do so in the books when they meet for the first time in the Leaky Cauldron. And he does that for the very same aforementioned spoiler reason. Also, when Harry gets his wand in the book, Hagrid is with him at Ollivander's, and they also both go to get Hedwig together. But in the movie, Harry's all by his lonesome at Ollivander's because Hagrid went to get Hedwig by himself. And then one big ol' omission, Harry does not go to Madame Malkin's in the movie. You do see her shop sign in the movie, but he does not go there in the movie. So that scene where Harry meets the blonde boy in Madame Malkin's, many of you already know who that is. That scene is omitted from the movie entirely. Doesn't happen. And that's all we got for the Transfiguration section today. On to the Golden Snitch section, where we talk about some lore, Easter eggs, and behind-the-scenes things. And so now we'll move on to our Golden Snitches section, our little bits and baps and things to call out. So first one, Harry's fortune. Do you know how they got their fortune, the Potters?
No, so that's what I'm like, well, I know the Potters are a family that's, obviously been around for a long time, and you know who they descended from. But Lily was really good at potion making. I don't remember that they had careers because everything was so in turmoil with Voldemort and everything. I don't remember. Yeah. How did they?
They get their treasure from Sleek Easy's hair potion. It's what Hermione uses in the 4th book to fix her hair, straighten it.
Yeah.
Harry's grandfather, Fleamont Potter, created that potion. And so it's like generational wealth. Like he got rich off that, and that became the family wealth. And so, yeah, Harry's grandfather, Fleamont Potter. I read a little bit about him. I won't read it here, but yeah, that's where all the majority of their wealth comes from.
Okay, so it's not like Lily and James worked their butts off. They just inherited it.
No, they inherited that money. And also, there might be some life insurance money in there too, because if they died at like 20-something,
I mean, who was giving out life insurance when Voldemort was going around yeeting everybody?
Low prices. Diagon Alley, here's the other one, is inspired by Victoria Street in Edinburgh, Scotland, a place that looks really cool if you look up those pictures. The other one I have is Grip Hook. We get his intro. He'll be coming back, much like Daedalus Diggle. Not a lot, but you'll see him every once in a while. Quidditch. I was trying to learn as much. I've read Quidditch Through the Ages. It's based on, I think, some real sports of I think they were Native American sports where if you look it up, you see like the Aztecs or whatever with the round thing.
Yeah, they have it. That. They do it in that one movie, like El Dorado or the.
Yeah.
I know what it's called.
I think that's what it was based on. I'm not positive, but I think.
Yeah.
At least inspired by it. I was reading her name. I don't know if this is fact, but I did read an article that said the way she came up with Quidditch was she just created a whole like 2 pages full of like Q words. She just wanted it to start with Q, and she settled on Quidditch.
Okay, so this is another quiz question that I thought about, but I didn't write it down. But how many possible ways to foul are there in Quidditch?
It's like 782.
Yeah, it's like 700. I don't remember the exact number, but I'm like, that's a lot of ways to foul.
And they were all committed in one game.
Yes.
That happened at some World Cup game, I think. Then my final Golden Snitch is that on page, in my version, it says page 82, but when Harry goes into the wand shop, he says, the very dust and silence in here seem to tingle with some secret magic. One that made me think of Hogwarts Legacy, but that's ancient magic. But anyway, secret magic, that's because wands do have a special magic to themselves. Wand lore. So anyway, that's it for the first chapter for today, chapter 5. So we're going to hop into chapter 6. Hold up right there, Barry and Jessie. Dang, aren't they a hoot? Give it up for them. I'd love to keep it going, But that is actually the end of our episode for this week. As I said in the intro, we talked for a while because we just love Harry Potter so freaking much. So come on back next week for part 2 of our discussion where we cover chapter 6, the journey from platform 9 3/4. As always, thank you so much for listening. Feel free to reach me at the podcast email, theretoldpodcast@gmail.com, or the Retold Podcast on Instagram. Anyway, that's all we got for this week. Thank you, everybody. Goodbye. Thank you for listening to Retold. Artwork for this podcast was created by Rachel Ortlip. Music was created by Taylor Jarvis. And the Retold Podcast is produced by me. That's right. I made this.